Hello everyone, my name is CM Freeze, and today I'm going to be giving you my March Madness bracket. Now, I would like to say just a few things and then we'll dive right into it. I'll be very quick. First, I'm no damn expert. I'm someone on YouTube giving you my predictions here. I would like to say that I have seen a lot of videos, I've watched a lot of games, and I've done a lot of research to give you what I think is the most accurate bracket. However, there are always going to be upsets. Last year, Purdue lost to FDU. I guarantee only 1% of brackets had that. There's no expert that was going to bet money on FDU. Upsets will happen. You will be wrong. I'm just giving you what I think is the most likely upsets to happen, and you can think I'm stupid for some of the upsets that I pick. Very rarely do you ever see all 4 1 seeds in the Final Four, or even the Elite 8. The last couple of years I can remember, a 1 seed has been eliminated in the first or second round. Purdue is typically that 1 seed, or even Houston. But I've watched film, I've watched a lot of college basketball, I even went to a lot of college basketball games. I'm not saying I'm an expert. This definitely isn't perfect at all. This is just kind of my opinion, so you guys can maybe get some more insight if you're struggling with some games. Believe me, there are still some games I haven't even picked that I'm struggling with too, and when I get to those games, I'll talk about them. Anyway, here's my picks. If it's a game that's kind of a no-brainer, I'm going to skip right through it. No reason to talk about it. For example, UConn, no-brainer. FDU versus Northwestern, FDU is going to win this game. I have people that I know. I hate when people say their sources, okay? Their sources. But I actually do have a few sources that know people. More so just people that sports bet as well. I have a lot of people that sports bet that are very smart, smarter than me, that are dumping money into FAU. They love FAU here against Northwestern. I know it's a common theme to bet the 9 seed over the 8 seed, but FAU has experience. They were here last year. They made a Final Four run. They still were a good team against top 25 teams here. They beat U of A. They beat another good team too. I mean, they're 2-1 here in the top 25. They had a difficult strength of schedule. I like FAU here to beat Northwestern. They're still a great three-point shooting team. When they're hot, they're hot. FAU this season just had some bad games. I watched that Temple's loss. Brutal. Memphis is a good team and South Florida is a good team. Sounds like they're getting blown out. They've lost these games by less than 5 points. And a team like Northwestern, I think FAU will handle them. It'll be close, but I would put money on FAU. San Diego State versus UAB. I've seen a lot of people saying that UAB is an upset team here. I don't think so. San Diego State had a very difficult schedule. They were perfect against the top-ranked teams. San Diego State has had some difficult games that they've played here, but the Midwestern Conference is a really damn good conference this year. New Mexico State, Boise State, this UNLV loss was brutal. But Utah State, there were some difficult games here for San Diego State, and I think playing in such a difficult division this year in the Mountain West Conference will help prepare them for playing a team like UAB. This could be an upset. I do not blame these 23% of people that have taken UAB. This could very well be an upset, but I'm going with San Diego State because of their experience and their difficult strength of schedule this season. I'm picking Auburn over Yale. I think this one's kind of a no-brainer. It's Yale. Come on, man. I'm taking BYU over DeQueese here. DeQueese has been getting some hype, and I kind of get it, but BYU's offense will just be too much for DeQueese to handle here. If you look at BYU's offense, they're a top team in field goal percentage. They shoot the 3 ball better than DeQueese does, shoot 3 throws better. They're a better offensive team all around the board. I like BYU here, and they've played much better competition. Illinois versus Morehead State, kind of a no-brainer. First upset here that I have is Drake versus Washington State. Drake has been a really damn good team this year, very high offensive power. Yes, they didn't play any top 25 teams, but they still had a very difficult strength of schedule, and they came out 28-6. They won their division pretty some close games here, as you can see, Indiana State was a great team who they were able to beat. Indiana State got screwed. I think Indiana State should have been in the playoffs. It would have been much better to watch than Virginia. But Drake has been an absolute heater lately, playing great ball, and they've been winning close games too. I love that they've been winning close games because in March Madness, you'll be playing a lot of close games. And I really like Drake here for the upset on Washington. And then Iowa State, no-brainer against South Dakota State. Then going back up top here, UConn versus FAU. I think this is kind of a no-brainer as well. Auburn versus San Diego State. Auburn is a damn good team. Auburn is a really good team. One of the best offensive teams in the league, and they have a really good defense as well. Auburn just won the SEC. They have been on a roll lately. Only losses, as we can see here, was they had an off night against Kentucky, and they lost to Tennessee, who's one of the best teams in the league. Outside of that, Auburn's been on an absolute tear. They've been killing teams, winning by 20, 30 points here. Auburn's playing out of their mind, and I can like that to continue into March Madness. Here's my first game where this is a flip. This is a coin flip game. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know who's better between BYU and Illinois. Now, one of the main stats that a lot of people have been making videos on, and it's very true, is teams that have a top 10 offense but a bottom 100 defense suck in March Madness. There are a lot of teams that get a high seed because they win a lot of games with their top tier offense, but that bottom tier defense kills them. I saw that the four culprits of this, the teams that have a 5 seed or higher, that have a top 5 offense, or top 10 offense, bottom 100 defense, Illinois, Bama, Baylor, and Kentucky. And every single team in March Madness history that has had a top 10 offense and bottom 100 defense, only one time has that team ever made it to the Final Four, and that was Miami last year. And I believe only a handful of times, like 4 times, have they made it to the Elite Eight, and only a couple of times in the Sweet 16. Very rarely do you see a team with a top 10 offense and a bottom 100 defense make it deep in March Madness, because all it takes is one bad offensive game and you're screwed. A team that has a bad defense isn't going to suddenly magically have a great defensive game, but a team that has a good offense could just be ice cold. Or say BYU gets hot and Illinois has to make shots. Illinois could be screwed. But at the same time, Illinois has been playing really, really damn good ball. Really damn good ball Illinois is playing right now. They just won the Big Ten, beat Wisconsin, almost beat Purdue. Their only loss here to Penn State was by 1 point at Penn State. So Illinois is playing some great ball, but that statistic of their bottom tier defense, all it takes is for them to have one bad game offensively and BYU can come kick their ass. Illinois, I watched this game against Nebraska. They were down by 15 points at halftime. They were getting smoked, but the Nebraska couldn't make anything. Nebraska had 51 points at halftime and then was only able to score like 25 points in the second half. This 87 was stat padding. They were already down by like 14 points when they started scoring again. So Illinois has been red hot on offense, but it will just take one bad game. I don't know if it'll come against BYU. For the sake of the bracket, I am going to pick Illinois. I am. But this could easily be BYU, and I'm not going to pretend that I know the answer to it. BYU could easily win this game, but I'm going to go with Illinois. I hate having 1, 2, 3, 4 here in the bracket, but it's the most likely thing that's going to happen, right? I have upsets later, I promise. Just this East bracket is so damn hard. UConn's so really good. FAU's really good. This East bracket has the most talent, and it hands down out of any bracket. Out of all the regions, the East region has the most talent, hands down. I have UConn beating Auburn. I think that's kind of a no-brainer. UConn's just that good. And Iowa State has been phenomenal as well. Iowa State, honestly, might be my second favorite team to win this all. If Iowa State didn't play UConn here, I would pick Iowa State to make it to the Final Four, even the final. I honestly think the only team that beats Iowa State is UConn. Iowa State is playing that good ball right now. Iowa State 6-2, just won the Big 12, smoked Houston, absolutely smoked Houston. They have 7 losses. 2 of those were to Houston. They played Houston twice, and they lost to Houston both times. They also had some pretty bad losses in the middle of the season as well. But UConn's just so good. UConn is so damn good. I don't see how anyone's going to beat UConn. UConn has 3 losses. They got smoked by Creighton. They lost 2 games again in conference play on the road. I'm going to have to like pull up some notes here as well because I'm sorry that I don't remember how the schedule of all 64 teams. UConn lost at Kansas back when Kansas was still good and then lost a fluke game to Seton Hall. But Kansas playing in a really good conference. It's just on an absolute tear. I don't see how anyone's going to beat UConn. I'm not going to pick anyone to lose to UConn. Why would you, right? They could very easily have a fluke game, and that's such a hard thing about these brackets is UConn can have a fluke game and just lose. That's why I said I hate these sports people. They're like, I know exactly what's going to happen. Oh, they get into your head, right? That's how they make you. It's not about actually predicting the right team. It is tricking you into thinking that they are going to predict the right team. And let me tell you, nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows. That's the beauty of March Madness, that literally any team can win on any given day. That's what I love so much about this sport and why I love college basketball. Any team can win at any game. However, when it comes to betting and you have to make a pick, I don't see how you can pick against UConn. And like I said, Iowa State, I would honestly predict them to beat any other team in the field except UConn. I think Iowa State's probably the second best team in March Madness currently, but unfortunately they draw UConn here in the Elite Eight, and UConn advances. Also, like South Illinois, I already explained why I thought they're going to lose. Bottom 100 defense, Iowa State will roll. Moving over then to the South bracket. Houston versus Longwood, pretty easily Longwood. I like Nebraska over Texas A&M here, I really do. Funny enough, I just learned this. Nebraska, their sports director actually literally left Nebraska a week ago to go to Texas A&M, and then the committee picked Nebraska to play Texas A&M. Apparently there's like some scandals going on over there. People on the committee really don't like Nebraska. That's just what I've heard. Who knows if that's actually true or not. But I do like Nebraska to win here. They've been playing really good ball. They beat Purdue. This Illinois game, they were up at half. I know that doesn't mean much, but they were up at half. I just think they had a bad second half. I think Nebraska's going to recoup. And I think they're going to take down a Texas A&M team who, I mean, what do you want me to say here? Yes, Texas A&M had a good win against Kentucky. Awesome, but they got their backs blown out by Alabama and Tennessee. I prefer Nebraska here. I really do. James Madison and Wisconsin. First big upset here. I've seen a lot of people saying, "Oh, I know James Madison's a 31-3 team, but Wisconsin's a really damn good team." And you know what? Fair play. Wisconsin did have a very bad schedule. Wisconsin did just beat Purdue by 1 point in overtime. However, I think we can't let this one Purdue game let us look past the rest of the season that they've had. Or at least currently. Wisconsin was playing damn good ball and was ranked in the top 25 for a majority of the season. And then now at the end of the season, they've just taken a nosedive. Wisconsin has looked like ass, and you can't say they haven't. This Purdue game that they won by 1 point in overtime is the only reason that I think Wisconsin's even this high of a seed. If they lose to that Purdue squad, they could drop to a 6 or 7 seed. But they beat Purdue by 1 point, and now they're here. They lost to Illinois twice. They lost to the Hoosiers. They lost to Iowa, and Purdue already beat them. And their wins were against a bad Maryland squad, Rutgers, and I guess a decent Northwestern squad. Wisconsin is not looking good. And you can't argue that while, yes, James Madison has gone up against ass talent, they still are dropping 84 points on them. Their defense is better than Wisconsin's defense currently. They beat ranked Michigan State in the beginning of the year in non-conference play. James Madison won all their non-conference games. And you already know that every single year you have a fluke loss or two. I believe that James Madison, looking at their schedule correctly, 2 of their losses were to the same team. There's one team that just had their number this year, and then they lost another conference game. James Madison is playing some damn good ball. Yes, it's bad play, but they're still 26th in the country in field goal percentage and 41st in three-point percentage. James Madison has a ton of guys that can shoot the ball and are just key players here. Upsets are going to happen. Upsets will always happen. And in looking at some of the most logical upsets, I think that James Madison beating Wisconsin is a good upset that could happen. I like Duke here to beat Vermont. I Texas Tech and NC State. I like Texas Tech. NC State went on a heater there. They were the first double-digit seed to ever win the ACC championship, and they beat Duke, Virginia's ass, but they also beat UNC. But before that, NC State was 2 for 7. NC State was not playing good. Yes, they got hot and they were able to beat UNC and Duke, but NC State's not a good team. They just got hot. They won the ACC tournament. But personally, I believe that they'll play a team that can actually shoot the ball, like Texas Tech. Texas Tech will, I think, pretty easily handle NC State. Texas Tech has gotten some rest after getting blown out by Houston, and I believe that they have a game plan for NC State. I know people are saying, hey, NC State's hot right now. They were not hot before, and NC State was not that good of a team this entire year. I like Texas Tech. I think Kentucky will beat Oakland. That's pretty easy. Florida will beat Colorado. I think that's pretty easy. Marquette will beat Western Kentucky. That's pretty easy. Going back up to the top, Houston will beat Nebraska. That's pretty easy. Duke, I think, will handle James Madison here. Duke, when they're hot, they're hot. Duke has so many three-point shooters on their team and they're a really good team with free throws, or field goals, and three-point percentage. Duke was honestly could have been a 1 seed if they didn't lose their last 2 games. They lost to UNC and then NC State in the first round. Duke could have been a first round. If they would have won the ACC tournament, they would be a first overall seed. But they dropped to a 4 here because they're idiots, and they lost their last 2 games of the season. So they're on a 2-game losing streak. Duke hasn't been blown out all year, though. They have 8 losses, and 7 of those 8 losses are by 5 points or less. They only had 1 loss that was 9 points the first time they played UNC. But Duke, I think that they've had a lot of time off. They've had a lot of time to think. I think the time off will help them. I think they'll get their shooting under together, and I think that they'll be able to beat James Madison, a team that hasn't made it that far. Duke has experience in this game. I like Duke. Kentucky, I like against Texas Tech. Kentucky's playing really good ball. And then I like Florida to beat Marquette here. Don't hate the messenger. Marquette's overrated. Marquette as a school is overrated. The last couple of years, Marquette has been ranked really high, and they don't make it far every single year. So I just had to pull up the stats here so that you know I'm not chatting shit. Marquette last made the Sweet 16 in 2013. Okay? They had a really good year in 2013. Since 2013, they made the championship in 2017, 2019, 2022, and 2023. The last 4 years they've made March Madness, they did not make it to the Sweet 16. And every single year, they've been ranked a fairly high seed. Marquette has been ranked fairly high. I remember last year, they were in the top 10 for a long time. Lost in the second round. Marquette just right now doesn't have March Madness flow. And Florida, playing in a high-scoring SEC, I believe that they can get out to a early start, and Marquette's going to be playing behind, and they can't win. Marquette is a team here that when they lose, they get smoked. UConn pooped all over them 3 times. UConn smoked them here, and I guess it was kind of a close game when they were home. Creighton smoked them. Marquette, when they lose, they get smoked. And Florida, who's a team that's shooting really damn good right now and made it to the SEC final, who dropped 100 points on Bama, 95 points on Texas A&M, 85 points, 78, 105. Outside of this outlier game against Auburn, Florida's been shooting lights out. And that's why, personally, I believe that Florida will beat Marquette here. Like I said, in the last 12 years, Marquette hasn't made Sweet 16. They've been in the postseason the last 4 years, and they lose in the first or second round, even though they're ranked high. Marquette's overrated. I don't like Marquette. I'm not going to fall for them again. I'm picking Florida. Houston, I have over Duke. I think this is kind of a no-brainer, too. Houston is a really damn good team. Really damn good team. Houston only has 4 losses on the season. They just got smoked by Iowa State. I watched that game, and Houston didn't score for, I think, like 7 minutes straight. Houston was putting up brick after brick after brick. But besides that game, Houston's looked really good in every other game that they've played. Iowa State beat Houston twice this year, So Houston has 2 losses to Iowa State. They lost to Kansas back when they were good, and then they lost, I think, like a 1-point game to TCU, but they beat TCU here again. So Houston lost to Iowa State twice, and they lost to Kansas, and then they had their fluke conference loss. Every team has a fluke conference loss. It happens. No team goes perfect. So outside of Iowa State, Houston's only lost 2 games. Houston's really damn good. Iowa State's their kryptonite because Iowa State's that good. Houston, I don't think, is going to have a bad shooting night. Duke's defense isn't the best in the world. Duke. I got a lot I can say about Duke. But Houston will beat Duke. And then over here, I think Kentucky will beat Florida. Yes, I know I said that teams who have a top 10 offense but a bottom 100 defense aren't that good. Kentucky's the only outlier I have here. Like I said, of the teams I mentioned, Illinois, Baylor, Alabama, and Kentucky, I have all those other guys not making it to the Elite 8. Illinois, like I said, I have them making to the Sweet 16, but I think BYU could easily beat them here. Kentucky's the only team because I think they have an easier schedule. I think Texas Tech is good enough to beat NC State. Don't think Texas Tech is good enough to beat Kentucky. Florida could beat Kentucky here, but this is a battle between SEC opponents. I just like Kentucky more because I think that they're better offensively than Florida is. And when both these teams have such a high-powered offense, look at this. Defensively, they both allow an ass ton of points, but Kentucky has a better offense. So I like Kentucky in this game. I think they're an outlier. But then I think Houston's going to outshoot Kentucky here in the Elite 8 matchup. So I got the 1 seeds making it over to the final. And I know that's lame. Like I said, this is a March Madness bracket where I'm going to do the best possible chance of happening. You could pick some upsets here. You know, maybe Duke does beat Houston. Maybe James Madison is really damn good. Maybe Houston loses to Longwood in the first round. You never know. That's the beauty of it. Now, you go over to the bottom brackets, and the bottom, I think, is a lot harder than the top is. So, I think there is so much more upset potential in the bottom than the top. But alas, let's go over to the Midwest here. Purdue's beaten Grambling State, no-brainer. This one, I was on Utah State for a really long time until I watched a video that said that Utah State is 1-for-18 in their last 19 March Madness appearance. That is insane. I honestly really think that Utah State can win, but TCU is a damn good scoring team here. I mean, they're both pretty equal teams. It's obviously an 8 and a 9 seed, but surprisingly, the 9 seed has had the better luck against the 8 seed. I do think that this could be Utah State. I really do. But when I saw that 1-18 stat in their last 19 games, you can't overlook that. That's something you can't overlook. Kind of like the Detroit Lions, right? When they missed the playoffs for 30 straight years, you know their ass. You know they're not going to win. This year was the outlier, of course, so there could always be an outlier with Utah State, but I'm not going to ignore that 1-8 stat. Now we got a gauntlet here that is very interesting. McNeese versus Gonzaga. Okay, I got a couple of things I want to say about this game. I did pick McNeese, and here's why. Number one, I've been seeing a lot of people saying, oh, well, McNeese has a really bad strength of schedule here. Gonzaga will easily take McNeese down. Newsflash, Gonzaga had a very easy schedule too. Yeah, they played St. Mary's 3 times a year, and they played Kentucky. I think they played Tennessee too. You see, they got those top 25 games. Lost St. Mary's twice, lost to Tennessee. Their 2 top 25 wins was against a Kentucky team who, again, like we mentioned, top 10 team, bottom 100 offense, can lose at any time, and St. Mary's, who they've dominated. This is the worst we've seen Gonzaga in the last couple of years now. This isn't going to be a cupcake for him. McNeese, yes, they've had a very easy schedule, but they started off the year 4-2. After starting off the season 4-2, McNeese has gone 26-1. That is insane. It doesn't matter how easy of a conference you're in. 26-1 is really damn good. Does not matter the conference you're in. Does not matter. Because like I said, there's always those fluke games that you lose. Hell, even UConn, the best team in the country, lost the same amount of games as McNeese did. Really good teams still lose fluke games. McNeese, after starting 4-2, only had one fluke game, and it was early in the season too. Middle of the season, I think. I think they're on like a 16-game win streak right now. You can't ignore that. Also, look at their shooting. 7th best in field goal percentage, 8th best shooting the three. I understand here Gonzaga is 2nd best at field goal shooting. I see that. But look at the 8-ball percentage. Look at that, or 8-ball. What the fuck? 3-point percentage here. I'm just saying. Also, McNeese has coaching experience too. That LSU head coach, Jerry Goff, that's coming. Jerry Goff, something Goff, that played for LSU and is now on McNeese, has completely turned around that team here. Completely turned around the team. In non-conference play, McNeese did better than Gonzaga in non-conference play. Gonzaga also had a weak strength of schedule here. I like McNeese. People are going to say Gonzaga could win. You know what they could? You want to know something? Gonzaga's made it to 25 straight March Madness appearances, have made the finals once, have won the finals 0 times. Gonzaga, we know them as the team that can't ever win it. They're always there because they have an easy strength of schedule, and then they lose. Whether that be in the Sweet 16, I think they made the Elite 8 last year and lost to UConn, but they don't have players this year like they did last year. Usually you can always name a really good Gonzaga player. They had Chet Holmgren for a really long time. They had Timmy, no, it's not Timmy Turner, but Timmy something. The year before that, they had that kid with the they had a really good player, Suggs. They had Suggs. Gonzaga's always had a player you can name. This year they don't. They don't have an elite player. They don't have elite talent that can bail them out like they have in years prior. McNeese, if they get hot and they start making threes, I don't think Gonzaga can keep up. Then we got Samford here. Kansas has looked like ass. I don't know what's going on with them, but lost to Kansas State, lost to Texas Tech, lost to BYU, Baylor, Houston, Cincy. Kansas has looked like ass, dude. There's no other way to put it. Kansas hasn't looked good. And now, breaking news, Kansas's best player is hurt. I believe that is Kevin McCullough here, their top scorer. He's out. While Samford is completely healthy. Samford also is putting up 86 points a game. 86 points a game. You know how crazy that is? You drop an 86 a game. Now, they have a couple of fluke losses here. Or I shouldn't say fluke losses. They have a couple of losses, but in their losses, okay, Wolford just absolutely kicked the shit out of them. But against Mercer here, they only lost by 4. And, okay, I know you got to look at the entire schedule. I know I've been clicking on this schedule a lot, but this is what it has offered to me. This is going to be an hour-long video if we're looking at every single team's schedule, okay? I know other teams' schedule. I know Kansas was really good at the beginning of the year and beat a lot of good teams. But since beating a lot of good teams, like when they beat UConn, Kansas hasn't done anything. I guess they have this win against Baylor. But I don't trust Baylor either, as you'll see. I don't trust Baylor as well. I think Samford can easily pull off an upset here against Kansas. We'll see if that happens or not, but I like the Samford upset. Like I said, there will be upsets. So my bracket, I'm going to be predicting the upsets that I think that could happen. And I'd like Samford here against Kansas. South Carolina versus Oregon, either or. This is a coin flip, either or. There's reasons to believe both teams. Oregon wasn't playing that good at the beginning of the year. They weren't going to make it, but then they went on this crazy run here to win the Pac-12 tournament. Beat Utah by a point, beat UCLA by 2 points. Actually, kind of played really damn good against U of A, and then played good against Colorado as well. This was a close game. This was a close game, and Oregon just pulled it out at the end. Oregon wasn't going to make it. They shouldn't have been here, but they won the Pac-12. They won on a good run, and Oregon has had a really good March Madness success. With their current head coach that they have, that's something I've seen, is that Oregon has had really good March Madness success. They don't lose in the first round, especially with their head coach. South Carolina's playing damn good ball right now. They have this loss to Auburn where they got smoked. Got smoked here against Auburn as well. Again, so Auburn just has their number. This Tennessee game, they just couldn't make shots. South Carolina is actually a team here, though, that they have a good defense. South Carolina's been winning games with having a good defense. Their offense isn't as good as Oregon, but they have a solid defense. Oregon does have a tougher strength of schedule. This is a coin flip. You can do either or for here, honestly. The main reason I honestly probably would pick Oregon, but do I really think a 12, 13, and 11 seed are all going to win in one conference? For the mayhem, I'll pick Oregon here. I still think whoever plays Creighton is going to lose to Creighton, but we'll get to that. Creighton, easy win against Akron. Texas, I think, is an easy win against Colorado State. I watched that Colorado State-Virginia game. It took years off my life. Texas has had a very difficult schedule, and I think they'll come into play here. Tennessee, I think, easily beats St. Peter's, as much as funny as that would be for them to have another run. Purdue easily takes down TCU. I think McNeese takes down Samford. This could be a really good game between two high-scoring teams. This would actually be a really, really fun game to watch here. But I do like that McNeese has a better defense. Yes, Samford scores a lot of points, but McNeese has a good defense here. And they have a better defense, at least points per game, than Kansas. Kansas allows 69 points per game. McNeese only allows 61. Yes, McNeese is going up against ass opponents. I completely understand that. I think McNeese gets Samford here. Creighton beats Oregon. Creighton's a really good team. 23-9. Creighton kicked the crap out of UConn. Two of their losses here to Providence. Providence just kind of has their number, but they beat Marquette, they beat Villanova, they beat Seton Hall. Creighton has some good wins on their record this season. Some really good wins. And in terms of offense and defense, they have a really good offense, and their defense doesn't allow that many points. I really like Creighton to be able to go far here in this March Madness. Purdue's March Madness history doesn't favor them that well. They lost to 16 seed FDU. They lost 15 seed St. Peter's. I think they have a 14 seed loss in there as well over the last couple of years. It would be such a Purdue thing to lose to 12 seed McNeese here. Obviously, they got Eddie, who I've seen the memes about him. They're hilarious. What is it? Eddie, if he wasn't 7'4" and it's him flipping burgers. I don't disagree with that. Purdue's defense is really good because of Eddie. They are really good at defending against the 2-point shots and teams and getting blocks. Where they'll struggle against is 3-point shooting teams. Purdue also plays in the Big Ten, a conference that doesn't have a lot of quality 3-point shooting. Now, there are some teams like Illinois and Wisconsin that can get it done, but Big Ten is known more for defense. I could easily see McNeese beating Purdue here. That would be such a Purdue thing to lose this game, and you know I'm not wrong when I say that. If you know anything about ball and you've seen March Madness the last 3 years, Purdue does not have... Purdue just sucks in March Madness. They do. They lose to a good quality team. And I've also seen the things where, oh, well, when Virginia lost to a 16 seed, they won it next year. I don't think that's happening with Purdue. I don't. Purdue will lose. I don't think they're going to make it to the Final Four. Now, will that be here against McNeese or in the Elite Eight? I really want to pull the trigger and pick McNeese here. I really do. I really want to pull the trigger and pick McNeese. I really want to pull the trigger here and pick McNeese. But I could look like such an idiot because Gonzaga could beat McNeese in the first round and then Gonzaga could beat Stanford. Purdue isn't going to... I don't think Purdue's going to make it to the Elite Eight. I honestly think... Or they could. This is such a tough game. This is such a tough game. This is a coin flip, honestly. Fuck, I might flip a damn coin. You know what? I'm going to do the logical thing here and pick McNeese. And then I'll have Creighton beating McNeese. I also have Creighton beating Tennessee here. Why? Well, let me explain. Creighton against solid teams has looked really damn good this year. Creighton has looked really good against solid teams. I understand that Tennessee has as well, but Tennessee has not looked good their last 2 games. They went on a good stretch here, but the SEC is high power, low defense. Whereas the Big East, little bit different. Kind of similar, a little bit different. Tennessee could easily win this game, but you need to throw some upsets in there. It's not all going to be 1 and 2 seeds in the Final Four. And I think the most likely 3 seed that's going to make it there will be Creighton. I'm going to predict Creighton to beat Tennessee and then Creighton to beat McNeese. Final bracket here on the West. Hate this team right here, UNC. Hate them. But they're going to beat Wagner pretty easily. Michigan State versus Mississippi State is a coin toss. I'm going to predict Michigan State just because of Izzo and just because of their experience, but I don't think Michigan State should even be in here, but I don't think Mississippi State should be in here either. I don't know how this game happened. There's no way that you can convince me that like Utah State and TCU would both beat the shit out of these two teams. I don't know how this has happened here, but it has. And I'm going to pick Michigan State to beat Mississippi State. I have no clue with these two games here. St. Mary's versus Grand Canyon. Who do you pick? This right here is my hardest game to pick. And I think that this could very well be the best game in the first round. Both teams are playing lights out ball. Grand Canyon is 29-4. Grand Canyon was really good. They had this 2-game stretch here towards the end where if they would have won this, they would have been 31-2. But they lost back-to-back to Tarleton State, who was a really good team by only 3 points. And then this was their fluke game. I said every team has a fluke game in their division. This was it against Albany Church here for GCU. This was their fluke loss that they had. GCU dominates. They're beating their teams by 13 points a game. 13 points. And I went to the WAC tournament. I was there at the WAC tournament. And GCU just played every single team better. UT Arlington was playing out of their mind going into this game, and GCU beat them up. So was Seattle. GCU also has a really big following as well, surprisingly. I didn't know how many... I was very surprised with how many GCU fans there are. GCU is playing really good ball, and Tyrone Grant Foster, who is a transfer from Kentucky, or from Kansas, he's really damn good as well. St. Mary's, like I said, they beat up on ass teams. Their only ranked opponent they played was Gonzaga. They played them 3 times. But St. Mary's is also really good as well. You can't deny this 9-1 start. Like I said, for me with McNeese, why am I able to say that, oh, well, McNeese played bad opponents, but they beat them, so they're good, and then just completely disregard that with St. Mary's? I can't. St. Mary's is really good as well, but their non-conference play, they lost a lot of games. You see here 15-1. They were only 9-6 in non-conference games. So I'm going to give this one to GCU here, but I think St. Mary's could easily win this as well. And then this game right here might be the highest scoring game in March Madness history. Charleston versus Bama. Bama's got the worst damn defense in the league. I don't know if it's the exact worst, but it's up there. Allowing 81 points a game. Just look at this shit. They got 102 dropped on them, 105 dropped on them, 88 dropped on them, 81 dropped on them, 88 dropped on them, 117, 93, 75, 92, and 99. They had one game where their team allowed less than 75 points is their floor. Alabama's defense sucks. And while they have one of the best offenses in the league, all it takes is that offense to have a bad game, and they're screwed. That's all it takes is one bad game, and they are screwed. Now, Charleston State doesn't have a lot of March Madness experience, but they're 10-0 right now. They're on a heater. I think that this could easily be Charleston State. I am going to give the notch to Bama, but Charleston State is such an upset team. Clemson versus New Mexico State. New Mexico State just won the Mountain West Conference. They should not be as low as an 11 seed. They got completely screwed. How is it that New Mexico State, 3-3 versus top 25, 26-9, just won their conference as an 11 seed, but then you go up here to these two idiots, 2-7, 19-14, 9 seed. I don't fucking get that shit at all. I'm sorry, excuse the language. I do not understand that at all. New Mexico State is a much better team than Clemson. Clemson hasn't been playing good recently. Back-to-back losses against Wake Forest and Boston College, 2 teams that aren't even in it. And Notre Dame, these 3 teams aren't even in it. Syracuse isn't in it. They beat them by a lot, but Clemson just isn't playing good. New Mexico State's playing great. Baylor, high offense team, low defense team. Baylor, I think they'll pretty easily handle Colgate, though, at least. Nevada versus Dayton. Nevada, again, 26-7. 3-1 versus top 25 teams. And Nevada is somehow on a 10 seed. When Michigan State and Mississippi State are higher, I don't get it at all. Dayton's been a really good team. However, I think that their lack of play against top 25 teams. Nevada also has a better offense. But, I mean, offensively and defensively, they're pretty similar. But Dayton is a team that hasn't really had to play anyone that good. And when they, like VCU, they lost to. Bequeast, they lost to. Chicago. I just like Nevada here pretty easily. U of A versus Long Beach. I like U of A, kind of a no-brainer. UNC versus Michigan State. Unfortunately, Michigan State. UNC's a no-brainer. Grand Canyon versus Bama. I'm picking Grand Canyon. Like I said, teams with a top 10 offense, bottom 100 defense, don't make it that far. I already have Kentucky making it far. Alabama is unfortunately ruled out. All it takes is for them to have an off night, or GCU, who has a good defense, to lock them up and to score. I don't think Bama wins that. New Mexico State versus Baylor, same exact thing with Bama here. New Mexico State's playing really good ball. They have a better offense and defense than Baylor does, and they also have experience against top 25 teams. I like New Mexico State here, the 11 seed, advancing. U of A versus Nevada. I like U of A, but I think Nevada could honestly pull an upset here. But look out for a Nevada upset in this spot. That's very possible. UNC versus Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon could win this game. Unfortunately, though, I have to give it to UNC. As much as I hate these individuals, UNC is just a really damn good team, unfortunately. Score a lot of points, have a good defense. I have to pick UNC here, but you know what? There's no way all 1 seeds advance to the Elite 8. I did have Purdue losing. You know what? Grand Canyon's on an absolute heater right now, and they're going to continue to roll in UNC. And then I'm going to have Arizona beating up on New Mexico. New Mexico beats Grand Canyon State. Grand Canyon State, Grand Canyon University. And here we are. Here is my final 4 predictions. I think UConn and Houston, I don't know how they're going to lose. And Arizona, U of A, they're playing really good ball right now as well. They're a team that could easily make it to the Final 4 here. And Creighton, like I said, I just like their really good offense and their good defense. A couple of teams just had their numbers this season. This might be boring, but I'm going to go UConn and Houston here in the final. I just don't know how you can pick against these teams. Like, I could sit here and make arguments, but the only real argument you can make is they have to have an off night. And them having an off night isn't a justifiable reason. Like, I can't say, oh, I just think UConn's going to have an off night here in the Final 4. That's not a justifiable reason. And then I'm picking UConn to win it all. I know it's boring, but they're the number 1 overall team. Logically, it makes sense that they're going to win it all. I could sit here and be like, oh, you know what? UConn's actually, they match up really bad against Houston, or U of A is going to have UConn's number. They're 30-3. Come on, man. All 3 of their losses were on the road. They've looked great since that Creighton loss, and that Creighton loss kind of came out of nowhere. Since then, they've beaten their teams by double-digit points almost every single time. St. John's game got close, but they scored when it mattered. I really like UConn here. I think UConn's going to win it all. I know this has been a long video. I know this hasn't been the most in-depth video, but on some of these games here that were close, I tried to give a more in-depth appearance. I didn't want this video to be incredibly long because, as I said, I just trying to give you guys what I've seen, what I've heard. I had some insider knowledge on some games, not a lot. But here's my March Madness bracket. We'll see if this sticks or not. Honestly, Purdue probably is actually beating McNeese here. But let's make it fun. Let's have some upsets. Let's not be boring and just pick all number 1 seeds, even though I did pick UConn to win it all. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and peace.